Our first story we'll be reading today, How to Train Entitled Parent and Kid, from user Ballin1985. After that, My Entitled Ex-Godmother, reposted, from user ThatPurpleGirl36. Thank you so much to our authors for letting us read your stories, and if you're an author who would like me to read your stories next, please submit them to the r/Mr. Reddit subreddit. And if you're new, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss a thing. How to Train Entitled Parent and Kid. Hey Mr. Reddit, this is my first time posting, and English isn't my mother language, so sorry in advance if my writing sucks. I translate the conversations from Hungarian. It happened a few months ago. My company sent me on a business trip to Vienna. I decided to take the train because I wouldn't like to drive about 7 hours alone with my car, and flight wasn't an option, and I was happy to relax for 7 hours and could watch some stuff that I couldn't when my 4 daughters are around. I guess you know what Entitled Mom, Entitled Kid, and Me stands for. Entitled Mom, a fairly attractive woman in her late 20s with long blonde hair, and a 6-year-old boy, Entitled Kid. They sat behind me. No one sat next to me. The first hour was uneventful. I started to watch the new show at the time, Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix on my phone. After an hour, I heard the kid complaining to his mother, but I didn't care because I was wearing earbuds. A bit later, I felt a tap on my shoulder, and I pulled out my headphones and turned.
Sorry, my son's phone's battery just died. Would you mind letting my son watch what you are watching?
Sorry, what I watch is not for kids. Maybe after I finish. Entitled Kid says loudly.
I want to watch, now!
I took a power bank out of my bag and handed it to them. I came prepared. I packed enough power banks for an apocalypse, enough to run my personal and work phone and my laptop on heavy duty more than 24 hours. So I didn't expect what happened later. I have a bad habit of waiting on the last minute before I go to the toilet, and when a guy finally came out of the toilet, I took a run for it. I left everything there, even my phone still running a show that kid shouldn't have seen. Big mistake. I asked Entitled Mom to look after my stuff. I mean, the toilet was maximum 15 meters away from my seat. When I came back about a minute later, Entitled Kid was standing next to my seat watching my phone. I was furious, and I'm a big guy, 185 centimeters, 105 kilograms. I have quite a deep voice, and I could look really intimidating. Me almost shouting,
What the heck?
Entitled Kid froze in place, and everybody in their carts looking at me. I took my phone away from Entitled Kid.
Don't shout at my child.
Why did you let him do it?
He's just curious.
Oh, really? So, you would be cool if my daughters took a look in your purse?
That would be inappropriate.
I'm almost shouting really close to her face.
Like this is?
Then I felt kicking and hitting on my leg.
Don't shout at Mommy.
That put a smile on my face. I squatted to eye level with the kid. I said in a much calmer voice, So, you want to defend your mommy?
Yes.
Good boy. I won't raise my voice at your mommy again. The kid looked really proud. Do you still want to watch something?
Yes.
Here's the deal. If you don't move or make any sound while I talk with your mother, we could watch something. Deal?
Deal.
Entitled Mom looks confused.
What do you want to do with my son?
Watch something and teach him about the boundaries of civilized behavior. What you would have to teach him. Entitled Mom didn't like this and wanted to argue with me, but when I told her I am son of a quite famous child therapist, husband of a physiologist, and father of 4, she eventually sat down. It turns out the kid wasn't that bad, just spoiled, and Entitled Mom couldn't deal with Entitled Kid's tantrums, so she did what many parents do nowadays and gave in. If Entitled Kid wanted something, she gave it to him, so the kid only needed some discipline. Entitled Kid is a smart kid, so he understood why he shouldn't touch other people's stuff. For my surprise, his English was pretty good, and he asked a lot of questions, mostly about technology and history, and he was really happy that I could mostly answer them. Later, I sat back with Entitled Mom and let Entitled Kid play on my phone. It turns out Entitled Mom is a really insecure and kind of dumb person who hides that with arrogance. She was really jealous that I could deal with Entitled Kid and felt horrible because she couldn't. It turns out the problem started about a year ago when Entitled Kid's father went to Vienna to work, and Entitled Kid's behavior really turned bad when Entitled Kid's grandfather died, so there were no male role models around. They live with Entitled Kid's grandmother, who also couldn't discipline him. So Entitled Kid gets much love from his mother and grandmother, but nobody really disciplines him. So I did something that I rarely do. I called my mother to ask a favor. I mentioned she's quite a famous child therapist. Normally you have to wait months to have a session with her, so asked her to have an extra session with them outside of her working hours. My mom wasn't happy, but she said okay. Entitled Mom was really happy because of that and hugged me. The rest of the trip was fine. A week later, my mother called me to tell me what happened. It turned out they lived the next village to my parents, about a 20-minute walk away. Because it was a Sunday, she didn't sit them down in her office. Instead, they went in the kitchen where my mother was cooking dinner while talking to them. About 20 minutes in the session, Entitled Kid asked, "Where's the toilet?" My mother tells him. About 10 minutes after this, they started to call Entitled Kid, so they start looking for him. It turned out, when Entitled Kid went to the bathroom, he saw from the window as my father and my younger brother were working on something in my father's workshop. He ran out the back door to see what they were doing. They didn't mind, so they started to show the stuff to Entitled Kid and answering his questions. My mother saw that Entitled Kid was having a good time, so they let him stay and help my father and brother. The next week, my mother and Entitled Mom agreed on the following. They would come on Sunday mornings for 2 hours. Entitled Mom helps my mother with housework. This worth more to her than what she would pay for a 2-hour session. While my mother explains parenting for her and answers Entitled Mom's questions, and my father plays with Entitled Kid for 2 hours, which my father really enjoys because he doesn't see his grandchildren every week, and while he loves his granddaughters, he would like to have at least one grandson as well. So, Entitled Son became some kind of step-grandson for him. Next we've got my entitled ex-godmother. So, a few years ago, I used to have a godmother who was one of my mom's friends. Now, a little background on my godmother was that she used to be a police officer, but she got fired because she was abusing her power, thinking that since she was a police officer, she could do whatever she wanted. The last time I heard from her, she was living at home with her dad, her sister, and 2 kids. They'll be important to the story later on. So grab a snack and take a seat, because this is gonna be a long one. We've got godmother, entitled parent, entitled parent's daughter. We've got entitled kid, entitled parent's son. And we've got kid. The son wasn't that bad. Again, this was a few years ago, so I probably won't remember all the details. So my family likes to travel on vacation because my mom has received a lot of timeshares over the years, so we usually like to go to hotels and resorts. One summer, when I was about 14 to 15, my dad decided not to go on vacation with us, so my mom decided to call entitled parent and ask if she and her kids wanted to go on vacation with us because entitled parent didn't have a lot of money. Entitled parent obviously accepted. So the day we're leaving for our trip, my dad is helping my mom get our bags into the car. Now, when my family and I go on vacation, we try to pack light. My mom will put mine and my brother's stuff in one big suitcase and put her stuff in her own suitcase while we each have one other bag. So between me, my brother, and my mom, that's about 4 or 5 bags. Entitled parent pulls up in her car with her kids and has at least 3 bags for each of them. 9 bags in total, including a portable TV that you can put in your car. Remember this. My parents were surprised, but nonetheless, they started loading the bags in the truck. After getting all the bags and kids in the car, we say goodbye to my dad and we're off. Now, entitled parent has an 8-year-old son and a 6-year-old girl. An entitled kid starts kicking my brother's seat. My brother gets annoyed and tells her to stop, by which entitled parent yells at my brother, telling him not to yell at her daughter. My mom then tells entitled parent not to yell at him because she should be parenting her daughter, and then after a while, they go silent. So we're already off to a great start. After about an hour or two, we stop at a gas station to use the bathroom, get gas, etc. For my family, we try to get in and out no more than 5 or 10 minutes. Entitled parent and her kids take 15 minutes to use the bathroom and get slushies at every stop. It doesn't matter if they didn't finish the slushies they got before, because entitled parent will get them new ones. Also, we later find out that entitled parent didn't even pay for the slushies. We stopped at about 4 different gas stations, which meant we were on the road almost an hour longer than expected. A few hours after that, before we get to the resort, my mom stopped at a store where they were selling almost everything. It wasn't Walmart or Target, I can't remember the name. And so my mom got my brother and I some books and comics. When we get back to the car, I've finished reading a comic I've gotten, and I ask Kid if he wants to read it. Entitled parent then yells at me, saying that her son can't read it or else he'll get carsick, which was a lie because he was currently reading a book entitled parent had got him. We finally got to the resort and checked into our room. The condo we got had 2 bedrooms, a king-size bed in one and 2 queens in the other. My mom had let entitled parent and her kids get the room with the king-sized bed while we had the room with the double beds. As my brother and I were helping them bring stuff in, the kids were running in and out of the room. Suddenly, Kid runs up to me and gloats about how they got the better room. I brush it off because I was busy bringing in luggage. Over the course of the trip, entitled parent does different things to try and get free stuff over the trip. One day, entitled parent and her kids come back from a boat tour, and the kids were saying how fun it was, while entitled parent was on the phone with the manager saying how awful the tour was, and then trying to get another tour for free. Another day, we go to dinner and a show at this live pirate show. At this time, I had braces, and our waiter was serving us corn on the cob, but I refused because I had braces. The waiter came back later with corn cut off the cob, even though I didn't ask for it. Now the waiters at this place mainly got paid in tips, so my mom left $10 for each of us, while entitled parent left $5 for all 3 of them. Now the real reason why we cut contact with her is about to come up. So one day, me, my brother, and my mom all go to the pool for a few hours. We come back and see that mine and my brother's chargers have been yanked out of the wall and almost broke, and my mom's expensive face cream is almost empty, even though she bought a brand new one the day before we left. Entitled parent and her kids were the only ones in the room before we left, so my mom went to question entitled parent. Entitled parent tried to say that some repair guys came in and used it, which is definitely not true, because my mom had jewelry and money sitting on the dresser, and I don't know why some repairman would want my mom's face cream, so we didn't believe her. Then my mom asked entitled kid if she got into it, and entitled kid said yes. But as soon as entitled parent said she didn't do it, entitled kid said she didn't do it, and that's when the fight happened. I don't remember what they said, but I remember entitled parent accusing my 14 to 15-year-old brother of being up to no good because he apparently snuck into their room. What really happened was my brother was tired of entitled kid messing with us, so he wanted to scare her. So he snuck into their room and hid in the closet until entitled kid came in. My brother didn't know she was changing until he jumped out and scared her. My mom started yelling at entitled parent and saying entitled kid shouldn't have been walking around without a shirt, and how entitled parent should teach her daughter to be more ladylike. At one point, I remember jumping in and saying that it wasn't nice that entitled parent didn't tip my very thoughtful waiter. I was really shy back then, so this was a big step for me. Entitled parent started yelling at me, saying that the grown-ups were talking and that I shouldn't talk to her like that. A couple more minutes of arguing later, entitled parent decided to take her kids and go down to the pool to cool off. After they left, my mom decided that she has had enough and told us to come help her pack entitled parents' bags. It took us over an hour to pack, and not only did they have almost 3 weeks worth of clothes with them, they also brought a Wii and didn't tell us. After we packed their bags, we took them out to the car, and my mom told us if entitled parent tried to come in, don't open the door. So my mom left, and later, after she came back, she told us that she went to the front desk, dropped off the bags, asked to have entitled parent taken out of our room, and got new key cards, so entitled parent's card wouldn't work if she tried to come back. We later found out that entitled parent tried to get a different condo, but couldn't because the card attached to the condo was under my mom's name, so entitled parent had to pay for a small 1-bedroom condo for herself and her kids. The rest of the trip went a lot smoother. We only saw entitled parent and her kids once at the pool, but they were either ignoring us or didn't see us. So our trip finally ends and we head home and find out that entitled parent had to get a rental car to get home because we were not giving her a ride back. And so we head home and think this whole disaster of a trip is finally over. Until we get a call saying that we had apparently stolen entitled parent's cords to her car's TV that she bought. Long story short, my mom managed to tell the police that we didn't steal it and told entitled parent to never contact us or come near our house again. I haven't heard from her since, but we love telling this story to friends. And congrats to our Regenerals of the day, Matthew, Sam G 88, Daniel, and Sansa. You know what to do. Become our next Regenerals by dropping as many reads as you can in the comments below.